Hey there, welcome to the Deliver on Your Business podcast, where you are the boss. I'm Ron from EntreCourier.com. Entree is from entrepreneur, for somebody who is in business for themselves. And here's the deal, folks. If you're an independent contractor, you are operating a business, ready or not. So that makes you an Entree Courier. Welcome to the club. This podcast is here to help you think like a business owner and to thrive in your business. So let's get started, shall we? Happy Friday, Courier Nation. Guys, I love Fridays. Now, back in the 9 to 5 days, of course, that was about the weekend, about taking the time off. But now that I'm running my own business as a courier, to me, I love Fridays because it's the start of the weekend and because the weekend for me is some of the best times to make some good money, to make some good profitability. I do hope that the weekend is a good thing for you as well. Folks, we are on episode 19. We're nearly 2/3 of the way through the 31-day Courier MBA series, where we're all about mastering business attitude. And that's what the MBA stands for. Master your business attitude. Today is the third of 6 episodes about finance, about the money. Now, while I do work on having each episode stand on its own, some of the earlier episodes do help lay a foundation. You may get even more power out of the series by starting with episode 1. And you can do that by going to deliveronyourbusiness.com. And we've got pages, we've got links to all the pages for all of the episodes there. Or you can find us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. So Courier Nation, I've got a question for you. What happens if you're in an accident? If you're delivering for Grubhub, Postmates, Doordash, any of these delivery companies, what happens if you're in an accident? Because you do realize, don't you, that personal insurance is not going to pay for anything that happens there? You do realize that personal insurance does not cover you while you are doing deliveries? Were you aware of that? You need to be aware, and you need to be aware now. You need to be aware as in, don't deliver another single freaking order until you know for sure that you are covered. I am dead serious here. This is an important topic. As we get into the money, this is really about protecting your money. Either get your insurance updated now so that you're covered, or you quit doing deliveries altogether, effective immediately. It is that serious. It is not worth the risk, friends. The few dollars that you earn doing this, it can feel like good money, but it's nothing compared to what it can cost you if something happens and you're not covered. So make sure you are covered. This is so important. Folks, I want to invite you, I beg you right now, think about, we talked in episode 3 about your why. Why is it that you're doing this delivery in the first place? You know, it's about family, or it's about something that you're saving for, or whatever it is that you want to do. If you get into an accident and you're not covered, you can throw all of that out the window. It is just that important. And it goes beyond just not being able to get, your why. You can probably guess I've got a little bit of a love-hate relationship with all these delivery companies. I love the fact that I can deliver for them and make money, but the stuff that they do sometimes are just immoral, okay? Grubhub, Postmates, Doordash, they're leaving you hanging in the wind with this, because none of them pay any insurance, provide you any kind of coverage either. If you are hurt or in an accident with these companies, they do not cover you. They might have some liability insurance, but they do not cover you. They do not cover your car. You're left hanging in the wind. And the problem is they know that personal insurance policies do not cover you, but they don't tell you about that, do they? Do you ever hear them give you any kind of a warning? Do you ever see anything from them that says, hey, double check your policy? All they do is when you sign up, they say, oh, you need to show us your insurance policy. They never look into whether or not that policy actually has coverage for delivery. And honestly, I believe they are purposefully leaving you hanging, because what happens is if they tell you that you need more than just regular insurance, people aren't going to sign up as often. and they won't have enough drivers. So they would just as soon kind of leave that hanging out there or something. And they're just going to leave you flapping in the wind. And that's immoral. The problem is that personal policies, your standard insurance policy, is generally going to have an exclusion in there that says delivery work is specifically not covered. Pull up your policy, look it up, and go look in the section, usually at the end of the policy, called exclusions, and read through that. You're going to see, you might see a term like livery. I'm not sure how that's pronounced, to be honest. Livery. It's like delivery without the D. Or commercial use. I'll almost guarantee that delivery work is specifically excluded. Livery is a term for transporting goods or passengers for hire. And so that definitely includes what we are doing. What that means is if they know that you're even logged in as available on a delivery app, not to mention doing deliveries, but just logged in, they will deny coverage for anything that happens. You are not insured while that's happening at all, period. And they've got the right to do that because they specifically state in the policy, we do not cover this type of use of your car. Now, I'm not defending insurance companies. But this is the thing is, this is not a matter of them weaseling out of what they should pay. That is specifically written into the policy. And there's a reason for that, because delivery work is higher risk. Delivery work actually requires them by law to charge more because they have to charge based on whatever the risk is, the possibility of getting into an accident. When you're using it for commercial purposes, there's a higher chance of getting into an accident. And they're not charging you for that high of a chance as part of your premiums. Now, here's the thing, though. The problem with all of that is that the delivery companies, they don't provide coverage for you either. We think that, hey, we're doing work for them, so they'll have our backs, right? Folks, they do not have our backs. They do not cover us. They do not provide insurance for you. Now, some of them will provide liability. And what that means is if you cause an accident, they'll cover the other people. They'll cover the damage that you caused. They'll cover the injuries or anything like that, but they will not cover you. Your car is not covered. If you owe money on your car, you're not covered for that. You're on your own for as far as any damage to your car. If you are hurt, you're on your own. Maybe your health insurance will cover you, but a lot of times if it's an accident, they're going to require you to try and go after your car insurance first. There's all sorts of things. You're going to go through all sorts of headaches. So you are not covered by these companies. Now, Doordash, they provide liability coverage as long as you've got food in your car. If you're on your way to the restaurant, if you're just logged in and haven't accepted an order, you're not covered by anybody. Postmates, they provide liability coverage from the moment you accept an order. So that's a little better. But again, it's only liability. You're not covered, and you're not covered while you're logged in waiting for an order. Your insurance doesn't cover you at that point, and neither does Postmates. Grubhub, they make it simple. They just don't cover you. Doesn't surprise me with Grubhub, They don't have your back in any way, shape, or form. There's no liability insurance. And as long as you are logged in with Grubhub, you are uninsured. It's the same thing as just not having an insurance policy. Uber Eats, I think that's one exception. They do provide some coverage for you. I believe it's like a $1,000 deductible. So if your car is damaged, I hope you got $1,000 that you can throw at the repairs, because they're not covering that part of it. But I think there's still a gap with them during the times that, let's say you're logged in, you're available, but you're not active on a delivery on the way to pick up or on the way to deliver. So you've got to ask yourself, what happens then if I'm in an accident and I'm not covered by my insurance and I'm not covered by the delivery company? I hope you got a lot of money. And especially if it's a really serious one. Do you have the money to pay for the damage to your own vehicle? Do you have the money to pay for the damage to somebody else's vehicle? Do you have the money to pay for injuries, hospitalization? Folks, if you owe money on your car and it gets damaged, the bank is going to require either that you get it repaired or they're just going to make the loan due if it's totaled. Do you have the money to pay that off? Do you have the cash right there to be able to pay that off? If you're liable for damages to somebody else or, even worse, injuries or death, and any of the judgments that come from that, your insurance is not going to cover you on that. In some cases, the delivery companies might cover some of that liability, and in a lot of situations, they won't. Do you have the money? If you don't have the money, they can come after your assets. If you've got savings, if you've got property, it all kind of depends on the laws in your state. It depends on, you may or may not be able to get out of some of that with bankruptcy, but it just really creates a problem for you. Folks, this is serious crap. Stop driving right now if you do not know that you are absolutely covered, if you're not 100% positive that you are covered in the event that something happens while you're on a delivery. Folks, one thing I'm going to tell you is never, never, never take advice on Facebook about things like this. Guys, I'm astounded sometimes at the idiocy in some of the forums that are online. This question comes up a lot about insurance, and I'm amazed at the majority of people that will just sit there and say, well, don't tell anybody that you're doing delivery. Guys, are you really that much of an idiot? Are you really willing to take that kind of a risk? Folks, keep this in mind that if you deny that you're on a delivery, if you hide the fact that you're on a delivery and the insurance company still finds out, because they can and they often will, you're now at risk at insurance fraud. And seriously, if you're trying to cover up something like that to get covered when you aren't supposed to be, they'll go after you for that kind of thing. Well, how are they going to find out? Certainly, they would never know, right? I know it seems that way, but there can be all sorts of indicators. There can be things that happen. If you've got food in the car, if you've got delivery bags in the car, if you're pulling out of a restaurant, things can happen. There are too many situations where it could happen in just such a way that stuff is evident. And if there's delivery bags in the car and that's reported in the police report, the insurance companies are going to look into that. They're going to find out. So don't take that chance. Well, you say, couldn't I just hide the food? I've heard of some guys that say they put all of the food in the trunk all the time just in case. Yeah, I saw a picture of a car accident where the trunk's torn open and there's Grubhub bags laying there on the ground. I know that's a severe example, and it's a tragedy because the driver was killed. It doesn't look like that happened during a delivery because of the time of the day that it happened. I've got a link to that in the show notes. But the thing about it is just the fact that those bags are laying there, I can guarantee you that their insurance company involved there is still looking into whether or not that person was on delivery. And when it comes to something like that, where especially there's civil action, they can even get into subpoena and they can dig into whether or not you're actually on the clock. I can remember somebody replying when we had this in a discussion that, hey, the driver's dead. Nobody's going to care about car insurance. Do you think that person's family is not going to care about the insurance? Yeah, right away, they're just dealing with the loss. But then when the insurance is going to come in and say, we're not giving you that death benefit, or other people that were affected that had damage in that are coming after the estate now for the damages. You think the family's going to say, oh, he's dead, so it doesn't really matter anymore. Guys, you don't want to put your family in that spot. You don't want to put your survivors in that spot. And God help us, I never want that to ever be the case for any of us. But don't put yourself or your family in that position. Get the right insurance. Now, I'm not selling insurance here. I don't even care where you go. I'm just saying that as a business owner, you've got to make sure you're covered, okay? You have to make sure that your assets, your family, your estate are protected if anything unfortunate ever happens. And I pray that it never does. So I recommend you check with your insurance. I mentioned, you go through your policy, look for those exclusions. And if you see any of that about livery, livery, whatever it is, or delivery or commercial use, you already know you're not covered. Okay. Stop driving right away until you are. You know that you have to do something different. If they tell you that you are not covered, if they can point out where that is in your policy, then you know you've got to do something different. If the answer is no, first thing you do is you ask them, do you have an endorsement? Do you have any kind of options that I can add to my policy? Because that's the easiest thing, is just adapt your policy. Some companies do have that. State Farm's one that I hear often. And honestly, it varies by company, by state. But the first thing you want to do is find out, do you have an endorsement or a rider or something that I can attach to my policy that covers me? If they don't provide any options, you've got two choices and only two choices. You change your insurance or you quit doing deliveries. That's it. Driving uncovered is not an option if you are in any way any kind of a responsible human being, because you are putting yourself, your family, your assets, you're putting others at risk. And guys, you are a business owner. Take pride in that. Be responsible. Being a business owner should translate into being a responsible human being. So that's as much as I'm going to say about that. I can really get on a soapbox, I know. You can check into rideshare and commercial options. Now, some people will say, well, we're not doing rideshare. But here's the thing, is rideshare and delivery both fall under that livery definition. That's a term for transporting goods or passengers for hire. And so both cases with that. So some rideshare policies will cover deliveries, some do not. Usually, sometimes that rideshare option is one of the cheapest things that you can go into, or one of the least expensive additions that you could do. So that's why I say start there, but you need to specifically ask, does it cover delivery? Then there are also a number of commercial options that provide coverage for delivery work, and a lot of them are reasonably priced. I've got one that's really only about $40 a month higher than what my original personal policy was. That's not that much money, folks. So a lot of the major carriers like Geico, Progressive, Esurance, they've got commercial options that would cover you. And a lot of times they're not that expensive. Now, the availability for each of these can vary based on the state. But what you want to do is maybe just do a Google search for commercial courier auto insurance in whatever your state name is. Folks, make smart business decisions. And this is one that is especially important, because making the wrong choice here could wipe out everything that you've worked for. A few extra dollars a month for insurance should not be a deal breaker. If it's that much of a deal breaker, you should not be running a business, okay? Now, I get the sense in driver forums and stuff like that, people feel like they don't think they should have to pay extra for insurance for their jobs, but it's not a job, is it? You're running a business. Whether or not you intended to, you're running a business, not being an employee. And you've got to think like that. Don't leave your business vulnerable. Don't leave your family vulnerable. Don't leave yourself vulnerable. One of the worst things you can do for all of these things is to leave it unprotected. So I cannot encourage you enough. Make sure you've got the right insurance, okay? That's going to do it for today. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for joining us. And Courier Nation, I invite you to come on over to our website at deliveronyourbusiness.com. Check us out. Go through the previous posts that we have there. We've got some older blog posts. Look us up on Twitter, Facebook, even LinkedIn. When you go to those platforms, all you got to do is just search for Entree Courier. You can look for our podcasts on all of the main channels. And folks, like always, I want to save this part for last, because I always try to make sure that I've done something to try and earn the right to ask this. Folks, if you find anything helpful about the information we're providing, either in the podcast or on the blog, please tell people about us. Spread the word. If you know other delivery couriers that are independent contractors, let them know about us. Leave a review at the podcast directories. Share us on social media. Those reviews help us get found, but if you can spread the news, we can help more people be successful running their delivery business. one last thing is please go out there. Take control of your business, take control of your life, take control of being an independent contractor. Go and be the boss.